this supporting block. It is called a part, the Widening Participation and Strengthening the European Research Area part of Horizon Europe. And this is exactly what we will be talking about. We will start with the second part of this block, reforming and enhancing the European research and innovation system. And my colleague Siri will take over now to talk about that.
Yes, thank you, Christine, for this introduction. Yes, so I will be speaking about this so to say second part of this part of the work program. As Christine said, I'm Siri Polka, and I am NCP for this tiny little part of the Horizon Europe. I am also Euraccess coordinator at Estonian Research Council. So for this part of the work program, it is set according to the four strategic, much wider objectives of the European research area set by European Commission in its document called European Research Area Communication that was published in September last year. And all the thematic topics under this on this part of the work program are somehow or are divided under these objectives. So what are they? The first is investments and reforms in the context of green and digital transformation of research and innovation. It deals with competitiveness and recovery from the crisis, of course, and it's much about support for policymakers and also finding more synergies between national and European research and innovation systems. Second one is improving access to excellence. Again, it is the goal is to have stronger systems and especially to support member states in enhancing their performance. Then thirdly, there is translating the research and innovation results into economy. That is about competitiveness in global race. It's about improving the environment for businesses and also deployment of new technologies and visibility of the research results. And the fourth objective here, and in a sense most important, or at least the widest one in this part of the work program, is deepening the European research area. It's about the free circulation of knowledge. Free circulation, it means also, for example, circulation of researchers, and really about connecting the actors all across Europe. As for the deadlines and budget, for this part of the program, it is foreseen, as Christine said preliminarily, that the calls would open in June this year for the first year calls and would close in September. And the next year calls would open in January and close in April next year. So what we are talking about today are the call topics for the 2 years, for the next 2 years calls. So compared to some other parts of the Horizon Europe, this part of the work program is quite small. The overall budget for the first year is only 55.5 million euros, and for the second one is 64 million euros, as foreseen. And what you can see here in this slide, or you can notice, is that bigger part of the types of the projects here are coordination and support actions. So not so many research and innovation actions here, but there are some that might be quite interesting for you too. There are also per one topic, the number of projects that are foreseen to be funded are not so big. It's up to 4 projects. But there are a few exceptions, like where there is actually some cascade funding, for example, built into the topic. We will hear about this soon. So as for the objectives that I mentioned before, for the first objective, there's actually only one topic foreseen or in the work program, but it's foreseen in both years, both year course. So. And it's about support for policymakers in program level collaboration between national and research and innovation programs. It means basically support for continuation of existing partnerships or creating new ones, but with an approach of like a bottom-up approach here, meaning that the national the policymakers or the topics for the partnerships could come from the national programs by also organizations, and it is an addition to the new general approach in Horizon Europe compared to Horizon 2020, where the European partnerships are preset already in their thematic setting. So this is for to still continue the support also for at least some support for the bottom-up approach in partnerships. Then also for the second objective, access to excellence, there is just one call towards Europe by training and networking scheme for research managers. Here, the skills development for research management staff is meant for a very wide range of research managers. It can be also innovation managers. It can be some financial professional staff. So in a very wide meaning. Then, as for the third objective, there are six calls, and here we see also one research and innovation action. These I have marked in my presentation also, so it would be easier to keep an eye on that. First one is implementation of a new macroeconomic modeling concept, and it's about how to better integrate the R&I activities in macroeconomic models for to better measure their impact. It's the goal is to reinforce the respective scientific community and especially in increasing their interactions with policymakers, so that somehow to enhance this information flow and collaboration, and that the input to policymakers. Then the next topic is Innovate Bridging Facility, where specific support is meant for European and African partnerships, especially for innovative small and medium enterprises, to increase their uptake of innovative solutions in each other markets, so not one direction, but two directional, and for example, support for conducting viability assessment projects. And here the approach is also bottom up. Next core topic is standardization booster for fostering exploitation of framework program funded research results. It means actually framework programs funded research results. So to help assess the standardization potential and also to provide support in the process of when there is a goal to exploit the research results from either Horizon 2020 projects or the Horizon Europe projects. Then there is a call for R&I intensive intellectual property management scenarios for the future, where the goal is to look for the ways to overcome the existing gaps that researchers face when they follow unconventional discovery methods. It is very much related to the developments in open science practices nowadays, and it's about using artificial intelligence and other computer inventions and so on. So this topic is for supporting that. Then there is a topic called testing of European Research Area Hub concept, a pilot, where the goal is to create synergies between European Union and national or regional ecosystems, ecosystems of knowledge producers, and for better knowledge production, circulation, and use, and to create the policy framework. It is expected that policy framework would be created, and also here it is important that the basis is smart specialization or some other strategic consideration, and in ecosystems that are related in geographical or thematical way. It's a bit vague in that setting, but I hope it's understandable. An experimentation space for the uptake and use of R&I results for European Union resilience and future preparedness. The aim here is to increase visibility and use of the results to specifically to contribute to the recovery of Europe, and here it's also engaging research communities and citizens in these actions in this section. And now we came to the fourth objective, which is deepening the European research area. Something I wanted to mention before, but I will stress it now here, is that in this part of the work program, it is quite often that when you read the text of the call, you will see very specific requirements also for taking into account the previous thematic projects. Often they are even named, but in any case, the background for these actions is very often very important. So this was something that I wanted to bring your attention to as well. Under the deepening the European research area, there are separate thematic sub-thematic areas to be covered. The first and one of the biggest areas is open science related topics or the area. Here are nine calls. First of them being modeling and quantifying the impacts of open science practice, which is a research and innovation action. And its content is to measure the scientific, societal, and economic impacts on open science practice. Then there is a call for global cooperation on fair data policy and practice, where international collaboration is expected to increase and mainstream the fairness of data and digital objects. And here there is exactly what I said before. Here is also set the expectation for collaboration. So here it is about to cooperate with activities of the European Open Science Cloud. So yes, not only taking into account the previous projects, but also the possible initiatives or programs or that have been created during these previous projects. That collaboration is expected with them. Capacity building for institutional open access publishing across Europe is a call where the intention is to support institutional publishing initiatives across Europe to improve the quality of their non-technological services for researchers. And here the key word is the non-technological services. Then there is a core topic of societal trust in science, research and innovation. That a research and innovation action where the nature and scale of societal mistrust is expected to be analyzed, and the analysis should give basis for the future policy actions. Next topic is support to changes in the assessment of research and researchers to reward the practice of open science, which is I find quite interesting subject of there is like a wider goal to reform or to encourage reforming the assessment system of researchers and research, and this topic is supporting that shift from quantity more to quality, and exactly like what research funding and research performing organizations could do in a strategic or policy level to reward the practice of open science, and also, for example, socio-economic impact of research. Then there is a topic of stepping up institutional and territorial changes towards open and responsible research and innovation, where it is expected that the evidence first, that the evidence base would be consolidated and innovative guidance would be developed to support institutions to implement sustainable changes and in opening up to the society. Here, financial support to third parties by a cascading grant is or a call is foreseen, and it is also expected that this action, a central point of expertise on open and responsible research and innovation for institutions, would be created. So a point where institutions, organizations could get help and advice from. Three more calls for under the open science thematic area. There is increasing the reproducibility of scientific results, research and innovation action. And this is dealing exactly with what the topic says. It's exploring the exploring the ways or the possibilities of reusing the research results already created. And of course, the goal is to decrease inefficiency in research processes. Then there is a topic for supporting the development of aligned policies for open access books and monographs. And it's the focus is here on development of aligned institutional and funder policies and strategies regarding the matter. Then there is a topic for developing and piloting training on the practice of open and responsible research and innovation. For training of researchers on wide variety of skills. Here it is meant under the skills. It's under this open and responsible research and innovation. It's meant in a very broad meaning again. It is expected that evidence would be consolidated again of the existing practices, and gaps would be identified, and based on that, also training modules would be developed and piloted, and it is said that it with as wide coverage or engagement as possible in piloting. And also it is expected that sustainable platform for this would be established for basically for the support. So these were the 9 open calls. The next area is support for higher education institutions and researchers. I'm sorry. There are three topics here. First of them, protection of higher education institutions and research organizations against conventional and non-conventional threats. It's a research and innovation action. And it's about analyzing possible threats, also about raising awareness and optimizing the resources in dealing with these threats, or for dealing with these threats. Then there is developing an effective European research area talent pipeline. That is core topic dealing with the researchers' careers and more precisely about the competencies and skills framework for researchers. There is a wider goal again to or objective to encourage change in this setting to basically to see what skills are expected from researchers and to make it more dynamic. And here it is expected that also link would be made with the European Skills, Competencies and Occupations Framework. I believe many of you may have heard of ESCO framework. So it's aligning the researchers' careers framework with this framework. The next topic is acceleration services in support of the institutional transformation of higher education institutions. So here, strategy and roadmap is expected for transformation. A shared knowledge base should be created. Coaching service and virtual meeting place is foreseen to connect with peers and other ecosystem actors, also investors and public funders. And it is expected that methodology for an investment strategy and monitoring mechanism to assess the progress would be created here. The next topic is, or theme is citizen science. First call under the citizen science is a capacity building and brokering network to make citizen science an integral part of the European research area. Meaning that the goal is to have a central point of exchange in citizen science between several European Union level and some subnational programs. It should amplify the citizen science project results and especially related to the other parts of the Horizon Europe, like missions, the projects in under the thematic clusters, and created in or activities taken in partnerships. It is expected that up-to-date repositories of initiatives, good practices, and tools would be created. And also that there would be a stage for discussion and collaboration in citizen science projects. Also raising awareness and training. So it's very the goal here is very very nice. It wants to bring sort of this information all together, and it would be the aim is to be for support to that organizations and projects would consider and would take up the citizens' engagement in their research projects more often. The next topic is supporting and giving recognition to citizen science in ERA. And here, actually under this topic, it has a bit bigger budget, and launching 2 calls for proposals is foreseen. First, for to kickstart and provide support services to at least 100 citizen science activities, like new ones, and secondly, support at least 25 citizen science activities that are already ongoing to help them to sustain their activities in a longer term. Also under this topic, it is foreseen that European Union Prize for Citizen Science would be created and would be organized. Next, thematic area is science education. Developing STEAM roadmap for science education in Horizon Europe. Here, synergy is expected with the Erasmus program. It's about creating a strategy for breaking the stereotypes, bringing more young people to science, in aligning with the needs of society and industry, preparing students to become one active citizens, and secondly, ready for work. And also synergies between second and third level education should be encouraged, and in general to promote science education mainstreaming. The second call on this topic is open schooling for science education and a learning continuum for all, where rather local communities are in the focus. it is expected that new partnerships would be created with very many different parties involved, from students to innovators, to work together on some real life challenges and innovation within these local communities, and in a way of engaging them also in teaching and learning processes. So it's this science education would be like become a part of local community development. The next theme is science communication, where a European Competence Center for Science Communication is foreseen. And here, first, it is expected that the evidence base would be consolidated on science communication, and policy reports and recommendations would be created, and guidelines that would support all potential user groups, including also public institutions, private sector, and so forth, so on. And secondly, the goal is to establish a center of knowledge, expertise, advice, resources, and tools. Again, to support the institutions in this matter. We've come to the next thematic area about ethics. There are 4 calls. The challenges of research ethics and integrity in response to crisis, coronavirus pandemic and beyond. Again, the topics is the main focus. So it's analyzing the crisis from the ethics perspective. What are the specific challenges related to the crisis situation? It's the aim is to share and use scientific knowledge and data in this particular context, and or the also the what are the ethics challenges in sharing this knowledge and data. And it's for example also about the ethics of scientific work on public health measures. Then there is an ethics topic for ensuring reliability and trust in quality of research ethics expertise in the context of new and emerging technologies. So here the focus is on the new and emerging technologies. What are the ethical challenges related to this, especially of course when they are used in research activities, and even more especially in the context of international collaboration. The third topic is about environmental research, the ethics in environmental research. So here it is very much connected to the ambitious goals of green transition of European Union, connected to the Green Deal, but the idea is that to reach these ambitious goals, quite rapid actions should be taken, and it's important not to forget about the ethical aspects that come with that may come with such changes. So this topic should identify these challenges and also help to support this effective green transition. the empirical and behavioral approach to research ethics and integrity is focused on researchers' behavior. It's understanding the element of how researchers' behavior, willingly or unwillingly, how they may stumble into problems with research ethics and integrity. So their role in the research process, and it's again the aim is to have some training processes and to provide qualified mentoring and support. And we've come to the next topic, thematic, gender equality. Also a very important subject in Europe, Horizon Europe. And here, next, the following calls are foreseen. Center of Excellence on Inclusive Gender Equality and in Research and Innovation Action. To create sustainable European Center of Excellence as a single entity or as a core center with a network of hubs in different member states. So it is not preset so strictly how it could be reached or developed, but the center has to provide support also for member states and for European Commission. Next topic is policy coordination to advance the implementation of the ERA gender equality and inclusiveness objectives within member states. Consistent and sustainable coordination network of national representatives on gender equality and inclusiveness is expected. It should consist of members from all member states, including the national bodies and from national research funding organizations. And here the focus is quite strongly on helping the less experienced ones. Next topic is a living lab for gender responsive innovation, research and innovation action again. To gather innovators, social science and gender scholars to generate new ideas to promote women innovators and develop gender responsive innovation. So the focus here is on women innovators in a quite big part. Sustainable learning and collaboration hub between various innovation ecosystem actors is expected. And fourthly, support to the implementation of inclusive gender equality plans is developing the gender equality plans about the minimum requirements for such plans to become more inclusive and more strong. And oh, do I have background noise? Oh my God. Well, Christine, what do you think?
Yeah, you can continue. You can just speak a little bit louder, and it's don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, I hope my microphone is close to my. Okay. Sorry for that. I didn't foresee that. I'm in a public building. So why this? Yes. Why this support for gender equality is so important, and why all these actions are in focus at the moment is that in my next slide, I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that starting from 2022 calls in Horizon Europe, it will be a requirement for all public organizations and all higher education and research and innovation institutions to have in place their gender equality plans. There will be a self-declaration requested at the proposal stage. It will be monitored in not all the how should I say, not all the gender equality plans will be evaluated in this application process, but it will be just occasionally looked into, and and it is the minimum requirements are set, and they are rather process related. And content-wise, there are also recommended areas to be covered. Basically, also like minimum requirements that what a gender equality plan has to consist. So the situation in Estonia for the moment is not unfortunately not too good yet, but I'm sure that organizations have already taken this information on board and hopefully have started working on this, and also European Commission has promised to provide support for the organizations. For example, there should be a new support facility to start operating now in this quarter. We are waiting for more information about that, and I will be sharing this information with our institutions. But there is a first step for the organizations is the link on the slide, where there is a very good material, like a toolkit for starting creating your gender equality plan. This is like the first step where I can guide you. Yeah. This was something that I wanted to stress, and it has to be kept in mind and taken into account. And I just brought some examples from this part of the work program. These are not calls for proposals, but some other actions that are supported from this part of the work program. So, for example, there are several conferences supported. There is the transfer of your access to become more broadly a European research area talent platform. One of the aims is to provide more or better information and also tools for example, career development for researchers. So your access is also in development and transition partly. There is also a contest for young scientists funding from here. As you can see, here is also a next step, the Gender Equality Competence Facility, the support for exactly the same organization, institute, that has developed this toolkit, these tools that I mentioned on my previous slide. Also, cost actions are supported from here, and some awards. And this would be basically this very, very brief overview from my part. Yes, I had this additional slide about the questions, but I think you already got this this instruction. So if you do have questions, as Christian wrote, you are free to ask anytime. I will stay here until the end of Christine's presentation as well, and you can also contact me. I think we have the contacts on the last slide as well.
Thank you very much, Siri. I can't see actually any questions right now because perhaps people need time to digest the.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing? Sorry, that we are planning to have also more specific info this once the work program are adopted. But you can always really, it was really schematic today, and you can always turn to me and I can give you more information.
Okay, so I think while you're still thinking of questions to Siri, and please, during the second half of today's info day, you're most welcome to also type in the chat box using the question mark questions to both me and Siri. So Siri will take the questions at the end. And coming back to today's structure, now we will start with the second half of the today's webinar, and I will be talking about the widening participation and spreading excellence part of this work program. So there is just one work program for this bottom blue box, this widening participation and strengthening the European research area, but it is quite distinctly divided into these two areas, this widening participation and reforming European research area parts. And you will see that the content of these work program parts are quite distinctly different. So in my part, although the structure of the work program is standardized, it's the same for the whole Horizon Europe, it looks the same, but the calls are very much different in the sense that here we don't see any topics, thematic topics for calls, but we see rather actions, and I will explain them in a minute. So without further ado, widening participation and spreading excellence part of this work program. And once more, this warning that we know that some of the calls will change. And here for this part, I will show you call opening dates and call closure dates. And this is something that you absolutely need to check whether these will stay the same or will be changed, because we have seen in the beginning of 2021 that the adoption of the European of the framework program itself and also the work programs is delayed so much that the initial dates that have been agreed with and are in the draft work programs, they have to be postponed because some of them were supposed perhaps to be opened in April, but as the work programs are not adopted, it's not possible, of course, to open any calls. So there will be delays. And let me start with the general objectives of this part of the work program. So the widening participation of the work Horizon Europe is a rather political part. It is agreed as a result of a quite hard debate between different member states. And the goal here and the actions here is to support specifically a set of countries which will be called the widening countries. And in Horizon Europe, these countries are the new member states, the EU 13, plus Portugal, plus Greece. And this means that the main benefits and the coordinators of the projects under this part of the work program must be from these countries. But of course, there will be participants from all the other member states and associated countries. So it is not limited, the participation is not limited to widening countries, but coordination is limited to widening countries. And also the actions are designed in a way that the benefits are reaped mostly by the widening countries, although, as you see from the third point here, the goal is, of course, to achieve a win-win situation with the widening participants and the non-widening participants. And the political aim behind these objectives is, of course, stemming from the fact that the new member states and Portugal and Greece are not as successful in the rest of the Horizon Europe and previous framework programs. And perhaps it is more difficult to achieve research excellence in these countries due to historic and other reasons. And these measures under the widening participation part are designed to overcome that and to encourage, as you can see, institutional reforms in the widening participation countries, to also mobilize national investments. So in some cases, it is necessary to have national investments in parallel with the funding provided by Horizon Europe. Then to really, let's say, try to breed excellence in these institutions in the widening countries by learning and cooperating with outstanding European and international institutions. And thus also increase the number of participations and the success of these institutions in the other parts of Horizon Europe. So it is sort of say a kind of preparatory actions to prepare the institutions in widening countries to prepare to participate in other parts, notably in Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe. And here we also see the keywords that Siri already mentioned. These are new, let's say, buzzwords that we will see in Horizon Europe. There is support for new innovation ecosystems, and the goal here is actually to, I would say, strengthen the role of universities and research institutes in the wider knowledge economy. So building bridges between universities and research in research organizations, but also business actors and societal actors. And finally, the goal is to foster brain circulation, to counter brain drain. That is the problem in some countries belonging to the widening countries, and also foster intersectoral mobility of researchers. So these are the overall key objectives that apply to all of the actions under this part of the work program. But let me just list the actions themselves. So I will be talking today about the actions mostly on the left side, which I just myself have coined the term main measures. These are the actions that you as research organizations can apply directly. So you can submit an application and apply for funding under these calls. And there are also a number of indirect measures that are funded from this part of the work program. Cost is among them, but cost, of course, you can also apply directly to cost, but not via this work program. So cost has its own modus operandi. And if you have questions about cost, I would encourage you to get in touch with our colleague, Katrin Kello. You will find her contacts on our website. Katrin Kello is in charge of cost in the Estonian Research Council and can answer your questions on that. Under indirect measures, there are also quite interesting things called the Hop-On facility and the ERA fellowship that I will also mention in my presentation. And the last part, ERA Talents, is just an idea at the moment. There are no specific information about this call yet, because the content of this call is still under development. It will not be launched in 2021, it will be launched in 2022, and it depends on the outcomes of some studies that are going on at the moment. It could be quite an interesting measure, but we will see what will happen to it. I will just present one slide about this ERA Talents, that there is probably a lot that will change compared to what we know now. But most of all, I will spend the time on talking about teaming, twinning, and ERA chairs, which are the old actions familiar to us already from the previous framework program. And I also expect that perhaps you have heard about these actions before, and I will not. I will maybe stress what has changed compared to the previous framework program. There are also quite completely new two actions: Excellence Hubs and European Excellence Initiative. you see that the European Commission is a bit struggling with coining all these names. So the word excellence and talents, they keep repeating, and it is sometimes a bit difficult to differentiate between these. But the excellence hubs and the excellence initiative are completely different things. So they are very, very different. So you will get the difference immediately when we get to those measures. And please feel free to interrupt with questions at any time. So I will be happy to take questions also during my presentation after each action if you have questions about that. And please use the blue button for the questions and not the green one, which is just a comment. Like elsewhere in Horizon Europe, this work program is also divided into destinations. And destinations could be called, let's say, wider thematic areas. And here also the widening participation part is divided into two destinations. So destination one, most of the actions belong under destination one. It is called improved access to excellence. And under this destination heading, there are defined expected impacts that calls under this destination are supposed to deliver at the end of their funding period. So all the calls that I will be listing under destination one are capacity building calls. So they are the main and the most important expected impact is increased science and innovation capacity. So the goal here is to increase the capacity of the institutions in the widening country. And to reach that, the institutions in widening countries are supposed to introduce structural changes. And here, structural changes do not mean changes in the structure of the institution. It does not mean that you need to shuffle the institutes or chairs in the university. It means changes in the way things are done. So how research is supported in the institution. So these structural changes, of course, should lead to more competitive research and innovation systems and a modernized way of supporting excellent research. And as already mentioned, these changes also must lead to increased attractiveness and to research talents, so to counter brain drain and to encourage brain circulation. For some of these actions, national funding is inevitable, so different kind of resources must be mobilized. And all of these actions should lead to increased participation and increased success in the rest of Horizon Europe. And let's go now directly into the calls. So the first call under this destination is called teaming. And teaming is also the biggest in size of support. And it's also probably the most political of these calls. So here, the European Commission seeks to fund really huge projects. So the projects will receive funding from Horizon Europe up to 15 million euros. But that is not the size of the project. The project must be double that size because it is mandatory to have also equivalent amount. So if the project asks for 15 million, the equivalent amount from the national funding or other sources must be also 15 million. If the project asks for 8 million from Horizon Europe, then the national funding must also be at least 8 million. So huge projects of the size of up to 30 million or even more if the national funding is larger And the duration of such projects is 6 years. Teaming projects were already funded in the previous framework program. So in Horizon 2020, we also had 2 teaming calls. And in essence, the call under Horizon Europe has remained the same. The goals are the same. The goal is to establish centers of excellence. And in Estonia, we use the term center of excellence in a different meaning. So here we really mean a large center of excellence or modernizing an existing center of excellence. The center of excellence should be focusing on one topic, one wide topic. And this should be done in the widening country with the help of leading European partnering institutions. So to apply for this call, you need one applicant, which is a university or research organization from a widening country. This organization will be the coordinator. And to help with this goal of establishing a new center of excellence or modernizing it, there needs to be at least one partner from another member state or associated country, or a bit more than one partner. But usually 1 + 1 works quite well under this call. And this other university or research organization should really be a leader in the field that you are developing. As these are huge calls and that need a lot of financial contribution also from national funding, these are quite, let's say, difficult to set up. You really need to. It can be a bottom-up initiative, but the university at its highest level should be involved in setting up these projects. What is new under this call is the way it is evaluated, and I think this news is very good news. So in the previous framework program, there were 2-step calls. So one call with a preliminary project that was either funded or not funded, and then another call where those preliminary projects could participate. And this dragged out let's say the preliminary phase of this teaming project to more than a year, and it took a lot of effort, and the disappointment at the end was, of course, also comparative to this effort that was put in over this more than a year period. But of course, in the case that when the project was not funded. But now here is one call with a 2-stage evaluation. This is quite a familiar way of operating also under Horizon 2020 and under Horizon Europe. In the second pillar, there are several calls that have this 2-stage evaluation. So first, applicants submit a short proposal. This short proposal is really short, around 10 pages or so. And those that are invited to second stage will submit the full proposal, which is around 70 pages. So there is no long, let's say, preliminary project period anymore, which makes life, I think, much easier for applicants. The call deadline for the first short proposal is already 9th of September. And in the case of teaming, this is very soon. So I expect that those researchers, those organizations that are interested in teaming are already preparing these proposals in say, full throttle forward. And the core budget is significant. It is 180 million. But the projects are also significant in size, so only about 12 projects will be funded under this call. I can't see any questions at the moment, so I will continue, but please feel free to ask questions about teaming if you have any. The next call I would like to, I should have added some sparkles to this slide to catch your attention, because this is a call that I think that each and every research group in Estonia could and should apply for. This call is called Twinning, and these are also capacity building projects, but here you need 1+2 as a minimum consortium. But here the capacity building projects are much smaller, they are much easier to handle. And the idea is to step up and stimulate scientific excellence in a defined area of research. So it's up to you to define this area of research. It's not huge like for teaming, it can be quite corresponding to, let's say, one institute in an Estonian university. And the top topics under there. And your goal is to make connections with the leading institutions in your field. So you need at least 2 partners in other countries. You select the very best as your partners. And via this twinning project, you network, you do preliminary research projects with them, you build trust, you can send your researchers and your doctoral students to your partners and receive researchers and doctoral students from your leading partners. And you can already, in this twinning project, plan and spend time in preparing proposals for the other parts of Horizon Europe. So it can be used as and it's actually defined as a sort of foot between the door measure. So you select the partners that are in these consortia that you would like to join, you would like to be part of, you would like to cooperate with, and you via this twinning you pave the way to future collaboration in research and innovation projects in Pillar 2. The contribution of this twinning action is larger compared to a previous framework program, and that is because of a very, very good news. So in Horizon 2020, in the beginning years of Horizon 2020, twinning actions were not allowed to dedicate any budget to research. So it was only those soft activities supporting research that this project could be dealing with. But now up to 30%, and if you think of 1.5 million euro, 30% is quite significant. This 30% can be dedicated to research component, and this means that you can actually execute some preliminary research projects that will pave the way for larger projects in the future. And the project duration is quite short, it is up to 3 years. And the call deadline is in December. So now it's really a very, very good time to start preparing for these twinning applications. The call budget is larger than ever before. So in Horizon 2020, we saw much, much smaller call budget. And this means that the competition will not be as fierce as it was in Horizon 2020. Around 100 projects will be funded under this first call. So I really, really encourage all research groups in Estonia to think of submitting a twinning project for this very first call. Because if you're among the first ones, you have higher chances of getting funded, but also you can learn from your own experience and resubmit the application if it is not successful in the first call. I can still see no questions about twinning. So let's go on with one of these new calls. And the new call is called Excellence Hubs. And this is all about these buzzwords of regional ecosystems and building, let's say, bridges between companies and research institutions and governmental bodies. So here I have just copied the text from the work program because I think it is easiest that way not to for me to try to describe what it is. It is the very first time that this call is announced. And as it is with these new calls, and also the text in the work program is as Siri already mentioned in her part of the work program, this text can be quite vague. So it is up to the applicants to actually interpret the text and give meaning to the rather general and rather, let's say, to use the correct English term, blah blah in the work program. So here you need what are called regional innovation ecosystems, regional place-based innovation ecosystems. And these ecosystems you need in at least 2 widening countries. So you need one, let's say, in Estonia, and then you find another widening country that has similar interests and has a similar innovation ecosystem. And you submit this project together, and you establish a cross-border joint research strategy for this area where you're operating. You have a research project component, so you can already fund research in this project, not only plan future strategies, but also you will have action and investment plans for the future. So a strategy, a pilot action, and investment plan for future. And it is important that you include here quite different actors in this place-based innovation ecosystems that also include societal actors. So you must foresee actions to raise visibility of this area. You include citizen organizations or technology transfer organizations, whatever, cultural actors, and you plan also activities outside the core business of research, but supporting the core business of research. And here, these innovation ecosystems that you need from at least 2 widening countries, but then also you can have additional partners from other countries. These innovation ecosystems are built on what is another buzzword, quadruple helix principle. So the quadruple helix means that you need 4 interconnected operators, so academic institutions, business entities, public authorities or agencies, and societal actors that can be very, very varied. And you either need to involve them directly or via associations or roof organizations that already involve these actors. So the EU contribution for one single project is quite significant. It is 3 to 5 million euros. So you can imagine you can do quite a lot with this money. The call deadline is roughly 1 year from now. So there is time to build this project. And circa 10 projects will be funded. So if you're, I think, in the field that has already sees some cooperation between the academic and the industrial partners, then I think this call could be quite interesting for you. And also, we hope that Estonian municipalities will be interested. And I have heard already some positive feedback from the city of Tartu that they could be interested in participating in such a proposal in developing this climate neutral city for the future. So there are people already working towards this call, and if you're interested, then I think it is possible to join these growing ideas or consortia. And now another call with the word excellence in the heading, but this call is completely different. So Excellence Initiative, European Excellence Initiative, is meant for higher education cooperation. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the call for European Universities Initiative that was piloted under Horizon 2020 under the Erasmus Plus program. So the European Universities Initiative, under two calls for this initiative, they invited consortia of universities that would like to deepen their cooperation and together transform the way they are operating. And quite a number of these consortia were already funded in Horizon 2020. But there are still a number of universities in widening countries, including Estonia, that are not part of any consortia that was funded in Horizon 2020. And therefore, to encourage specifically widening country universities to take part and to pave the way for future successful consortia, this excellence initiative call will be opened, and the deadline will be already this November. And as I said, the target group are universities that are not part of any consortia yet. And in Estonia, we know that 3 universities are already part of this consortia. So those are not the main target group of this call anymore. So the University of Tartu, Tallinn University of Technology, and the Estonian Academy of Arts are already participating in European Universities Initiative consortia, and they cannot be funded here. They can participate in the calls as an additional partner, but they will not be receiving any funding from this call. But for example, University of Tallinn is not yet involved in any consortium, so I would highly encourage you to take part of this call to prepare a future submission to the Erasmus Plus program and to benefit from the quite significant funding here again, 1.5 to 2 million euros per one consortium and for 3 years. So circa 15 projects will be funded, and this is a good number, I think, considering the kind of consortia that are weighted here. So 2 calls with the word excellence, but not related at all in the idea of the call. The final call under this destination is called the Hop-on facility. And here we are again talking about quite a different approach. Here you might remember that I listed it under the indirect part of my first slide. So this hop-on facility is something that you cannot apply directly and benefit. This hop-on facility is meant for funded consortia under research and innovation action projects of the second pillar of Horizon Europe. So quite another part of Horizon Europe. They will fund consortia, and these consortia can then, after they have been granted the project, they can add partners from widening countries to their consortia. And they can add partners from the countries that were not represented in the original consortium. So let's say there is a Pillar 2 research and innovation project that does not have any Estonian partners. The Hop-on facility would allow this project to add an Estonian partner. The proposal will be submitted by the coordinator of the original project, and the evaluation will take into account the scientific contribution of this added partner to the existing project. And the funding available is 200,000 up to 500,000 euros. And most of it, so at least 90% or more, must be for the benefit of this new partner that is added to the consortium. But up to 10% can also go to the coordinating pod, let's say. And this hop-on facility will start in 2022 because at the moment we do not have any consortia funded under Horizon Europe. So of course it is not possible to add someone to the funded project. But as soon as there are funded projects, they can start using this. Well, the fact is that you would naturally ask, so why add this partner later? Why not be in the core consortium? And this, of course, is a very valid question, and there is no answer to it. The answer is, of course, you should be in the core consortium if you're collaborating and interested in participating. So I would say that Estonian institutions perhaps are not the primary target group of such the primary target group of such call. But let's say you have a core consortium where Estonia is also a partner, and perhaps you think that you might want to add a smaller partner from Moldova or Ukraine. So you can benefit from this call also not as someone who is added to the existing consortium, but also from the adder part of you. So you might be the one who wants to add a partner from, let's say, any widening country. And why I mentioned Moldova and Ukraine, it is expected that they will be associated to Horizon Europe, and Horizon, as was the case in Horizon 2020, associated countries can also be given the status of widening countries if they correspond to the criteria for such countries. So it is expected that if Moldova and Ukraine will be associated, and these are just examples that I'm bringing, they will also be able to benefit from this hop-on facility. So you can think of this hop-on facility from the other point of view, not from the one who is joining the existing consortium, but from the core consortium who you would like to join. So I can see that there are there are questions about Excellence Initiative. So I will take some questions from here. So you would like to know what is the exact call ID for Excellence Initiative. And I will copy and paste it here so you can find it easily. So the I will respond in the chat window. I can see, Julie, that you have already found the answer by yourself. So yes, it is access 05. At the moment, you can, and I will take the next question. So Katrin, you ask where you could find more information about twinning. At the moment, there is no public information about twinning, but the draft work programs have actually been published by the European Commission on a website, and also the universities' research departments or grant centers have them. So if you liaise with them or you write directly with me, I could send you the link to the work program. But as soon as the work program is adopted, I will have dedicated info day about the twinning action. So you can start by reading by yourself and then attending this info day in the future. When it will be, I expect that the work program will be published in mid-May. But we are living in a time of real uncertainty, so we have seen delays after delays, so I couldn't promise a concrete date for this info day. But if you write to me or you get in touch with the research office or grant office of your university, you will get the draft text about twinning. So I can't see any further questions, so I will return to my slides. And the next part of this, the next part of this part of the work program, Destination 2, is called Attracting and Mobilizing the Best Talents. And here the focus is on attracting talented researchers to the widening countries. And by doing so, you initiate institutional reforms, you make better use of existing infrastructures, and you align your organization with the ERA priorities that Siri has already introduced to you. So the same 4 ERA priorities that Siri mentioned are also an important tool for understanding this part of the work program. So under this destination, the first call is ERA Chairs. And ERA Chairs is a call that we know from Horizon 2020, but this call has changed, and I would say it has changed significantly. The idea behind the call has not changed, but the way that the call is structured has changed significantly. So let me just briefly remind you how it was in the previous framework program. In the previous framework program, to apply for an ERA chair, an organization wrote a project. If the project was funded, they launched an open recruitment for finding an ERA chair. Because the idea is that you recruit an excellent researcher who is also an experienced research administrator, and under his or her supervision, you establish a team in your organization, and thus you also support institutional reforms. But in Horizon 2020, in many countries, this way of operating the ERA chairs was a bit difficult for organizations because they did not receive good quality candidates. The recruitment process took ages and ages, and thus the project themselves, once the ERA chair was in place, the actual working time got shorter and shorter because the recruitment process was so long. So the European Commission decided to change the whole approach. So now in these projects, the goal is exactly the same. You still recruit an excellent researcher, you establish a team, you implement structural changes. This is exactly the same. But the new ERA chair holder whom you want to recruit has to already be identified in the proposal. So this actually changes the whole game. So you must have a person who is willing to come to your institution and who is willing to be a part of this project, even though the outcome of this project is not certain. So you submit this application, it might be successful, it might be unsuccessful. But in case this is successful, then you then recruit this person for the whole duration of the project. But in Horizon Europe, the conditions allow that this person can also be recruited part-time. So this person might retain some connections to his or her old institution and actually spend some time there, and only dedicate half or part of their time to this new institution here in the widening country. And then there are also some changes in how the team must be structured. So only half of the team may have previous contractual links with the coordinator. So at least half of the team must also be recruited from outside Estonia, I would say. The project duration is up to 5 years. And the EU contribution can range between 1.5 and 2.5 million euros, depending of this project. And here is a good question that I would really like to take right away. And this ERA chairperson cannot be already working in this university. So this must be a new person that is recruited, that will be recruited to this organization from the open market, so to say. So if this person is already working at the institution, the European Commission would answer, well, why do you need the ERA chair grant? If this person is such a good researcher, your organization would anyway want to keep him or her. And also this person must be a very good research administrator, so they must be already very good at attracting research funding, so they would be able to apply for, I don't know, any other type of grant. So unfortunately, the answer is no. And we have seen already in Horizon 2020 that the Commission is very, very reluctant in allowing people to be recruited who have any previous ties with the recruiting organization. So yes, it is unfortunately it is a no. So this ERA chairperson, this ERA chairholder must be a different person, but the person who coordinates this project can be an existing project, will be probably a person who is already in the institution. And this ERA chair will be brought in, perhaps if this person retains the ties with the home organization and plans to return there. The team that is established here should still be a sustainable team. And this person who is coordinating this project, who is actually involved in writing and recruiting, etc., of this ERA chair, this person could then continue as the team leader. But it is not as simple as that. The new call foresees that there has to be an open call for the team leader position, and also the ERA chair must apply for this team leader position if they want to remain in this organization. So I would say unnecessarily complicated is the new scheme. We will see how it will actually work. It is looks a bit like something that was conceived in a high building in Brussels with not so tight connections with actual institutions operating in research. But at the same time, we must not forget that this ERA chair measure is intended for very, very different countries, because we see very big differences between the widening countries themselves. So what works in Estonia might not work in Romania, for example. So it is understandable that it is not tailor-made for our situations. So the call deadline is 1 year from now, and it gives you plenty of time to, but not too much time actually, to contact already this person, the future ERA chairholder, and to start conceiving the idea of writing this project. Estonia was very successful in Horizon 2020 in this ERA chair measure. In Horizon Europe, the budgets will be much larger, so we see that already for this first call, we have 80 million euros and 32 projects will be funded, which is more than ever before. So I really encourage, it is very nice amount of money, and most of the ERA chair projects are really very, very successful in implementing the ideas and the research teams. So I see another question, and I will also answer it right away because I know I need to explain some more. So the idea is that you name this person that you will bring in, and if you hear some background noise, it is my dog lapping up some water. So a normal COVID home office environment. The ERA chair will be named in the proposal. You will recruit one specific person to be the ERA chair. Then you start the project if your proposal is successful, and midway through the project, you announce an open call to fill the position of the team leader. And the ERA chair that you have recruited can participate in this open call. And the idea is that this ERA chair position is temporary, but this team leader position is not temporary. It is a permanent position. So this ERA chair that you have brought in can also apply to be this to remain permanently in your organization. And but also other people can participate in here. So it will be a mess, I can guarantee, but that is how the new conditions look like, at least what is written now in the work program. Julie, did this answer your question? I think this open competition in the middle of the project might not create a very healthy environment for this team if the previous person will also compete against the new ERA chair. So it will not be very easy to implement this in a very, let's say, transparent and clear way. So this was about ERA chairs. Still highly recommended to apply for this. The funding is nice. It can be used for research. It will be really to a certain amount. It can cover the salaries of the team members 100%. But for research costs, there is, I mean, all kind of equipment and maybe consumables. There is a 10% limit. So 10% can be used for directly for research costs. And now another indirect measure under this destination. This is called ERA Fellowship. And this is actually a continuation, exactly the same thing as in the previous framework program we saw widening fellowships. There was a political discussion whether or not to continue with the widening fellowships. And for the time being, for the first 2 years at least, we have the direct continuation. And this is how it works. So this measure is not a direct call. It is an indirect call, meaning that applications will be submitted to Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowships. And if the call is with a host institution, if the application is with a host institution from a widening country, let's say incoming postdoctors to Estonian universities, and this application receives high score, but will not get funded under Marie Skłodowska-Curie, all these applications can have a second chance to get funded here under ERA fellowships. And this transfer from the Marie Curie to ERA fellowship is automatic. So unless the applicant says that they absolutely do not want this, they will be automatically transferred to this call, and they have a chance to get funded with the absolute exactly the same conditions. So the grant agreement and the amounts will be exactly the same. And thus the call deadlines and the amounts and everything will be connected to the Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowship call. So the deadline is the Marie Curie deadline. It is the 15th of September this year and next year. And the call budget is 8 million per year. So it allows for quite a nice number of these fellowships to be funded. The widening fellowships were a similar measure, and it worked very well. So applicants applied to Marie Curie, they received quite high scores, and they got funded from this second chance, the widening fellowship funding, if the host institution was in a widening country. So this is a very nice incentive also to have more applications to the Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowship with widening countries as host institutions. And we have seen in the previous framework program that the number of the applications to the Marie Skłodowska-Curie calls has grown. And I think the widening fellowships were one factor that helped it to grow. And under Horizon Europe, we expect this to grow even more. And we might also have some other measures to support this growth of Marie Curie applications. It does not apply to, for example, Estonian researchers applying to go to a non-widening country. So the host institution has to be in a widening country, not the researcher originally. And now, finally, a slide about ERA talents. And the initial idea was to create a much wider mobility instrument than the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships and the ERA fellowships are. So to expand the idea of research talent to areas also outside research. So the idea is to bring in and to support bringing in talents of different scientific and administrative expertise. And these R&I talents could be, you see a list of here. So knowledge brokers, research managers, administrators, junior researchers, starting entrepreneurs, so you name it, almost anything. So anything slightly to do with research would be open to this call. This call was the Commission and the member states did not reach a political consensus of what the exact content of this call should be. And therefore, it was postponed, the launch of this. So there are 2 ongoing studies that are looking into it, and the Commission will propose a new solution and will do so during 2021. So the idea is that they will launch it in 2022. They even have an indicative call deadline, but don't take this too seriously. And it could be that we see a birth of a quite broad and quite interesting mobility measure that allows institutions to recruit workers, I would say, from abroad, yes, highly qualified workers from abroad. But up to now, it is just a sketch of a measure. And this was actually my last slide. This is the last measure under the widening participation and spreading excellence part. And we really hope that Estonian universities will be very active in applying, especially for twinning and ERA chairs. The Ministry of Education and Research is already busy planning where the teaming projects could get their co-funding. So this is also under it is not forgotten. So there will be specific measures funded from structural funds to fund the additional funding that is needed for teaming. And of course, we do hope that we will see also applicants for these new schemes that were proposed under this work program. We still have time for questions, so please do not hesitate to ask further questions, either from Siri, who has stayed here for this occasion and would like to explain more about the strengthening ERA part. But also, it is a lot of information that we have presented to you today, and some of it is just quite sketchy. So you can wait until we announce specific info days on the calls, but also just feel free to contact us at any time and send your questions and ideas to us. So if there are, yes, no further questions, Siri, you would like to say something?
No, I also just wanted to thank you for your attention, and also repeat that I'm available at the contacts.
In that case, I will just switch off the recording